Hi, party people. This is Olori Lalade Shiombola, founder of Nora Labs, host of Black Genius, which you are watching right now. I'm really excited to bring to you Damien D. Smith today. Legendary. You met Nia Weeks a few days ago, and now you're going to get to meet Damien. He's part of the Impact team. The work that they're doing is absolutely mind blowing. Let me just give you a little bit of Damien's story. Damien D. Smith is a lifelong storyteller with more than 15 years of experience in theater, television, and film. You've probably seen him in Snowfall. You might have seen him on The Purge. He's driven by both a responsibility to shed light on injustice and oppression and has a deep rooted passion for community, faith, and social activism. Damien is the filmmaker behind Target St. Louis, which is Target St. Louis Volume 1, which is a film about testing that the government did on St. Louis natives, which we're going to learn about as we talk to him. His empathy for his people was sparked and fostered by his grandmother, who raised him in St. Louis, Missouri. Because of her influence, a message of acceptance and love of humanity is central to his work. So please snap your fingers, stomp your feet, and help me welcome Damien D. Smith into the Black Genius seat.
Hey, how y'all doing? Hello, good people. How y'all doing? I'm honored to be a part of Black Genius.
Welcome, Damien. It's an honor to work with you and just to kind of learn more about your work. Um, Watching your work, like I've always said about Free to Be Free, you can feel the love when it's when a storyteller tells a story, even if they're not in the film or they don't say anything, the stories that they choose to tell and the voices they choose to amplify really communicates how they feel about the people. So I just got to give you, all the snaps and all the flowers because you're doing some amazing work out there. So you're currently in Los Angeles, is that right?
Yes. I've been in Los Angeles for the last couple days.
And you just came back from Ghana, had a very rich trip in Ghana.
Yes. Just got back from Ghana. Spent of the month of May in Ghana, and
So
got back. So,
and you were conferred with a chieftaincy, as I understand it.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was in Stewed while I was in Ghana.
Yes.
I was in Stewed, and I became a divisional chief, which is it's is an honor and it is a blessing to be recognized and also to be to have this honor and that title put on me to let me know that there's much more work to do, but they do recognize um, our contributions and my contributions into the diaspora community and also the community of Asebu Central Region, and
Mhm.
they gave me the title of my name is Nana Kwame Obu the First, and I am the ambassador to the Asebu Central Region to the states.
That's amazing. Just all the snaps. Tell us about Ghana. Tell us about experiencing Ghana as a Black American, as somebody from, St. Louis. The things that you have experienced have really run the gamut of the Black American experience in the States. And so kind of taking that experience and that knowledge to a place like Ghana, just kind of tell us about what that has meant for you and what the experience has been like.
Well, the experience has been just life changing. Actually, I had never been to the continent until I stepped foot in Ghana, and that country is so rich in our history, our story, the and the trajectory of our people, especially in America, coming from out of Cape Coast and excuse me, Cape Coast and Amina areas of Ghana. And for me, being an African American, touching ground in Ghana, it is the first time I initially felt like I had like a big coat on, like those old those winter coats, the Warwich, those Sherlins, those big coats that we wear in the winter in the Midwest and the East Coast. You know, that feeling when you have them on, but when I stepped in Ghana, it's like I shedded all of I
Mhm.
don't know. I was much lighter. I had I was a lot calmer and things like that. And that was that. And I didn't understand that feeling for a minute. I didn't understand how to interpret that because I had never felt it before. I traveled around the world, and it still wasn't that new level of freedom and lightness until I touched down on the continent, and in particularly in the country of Ghana. And the people, when you meet Ghanaians, and they know that this is your first time or you're coming back, they say automatically, "Hey, welcome home." Let you know that you are in a place where you're accepted for who you are, and you don't have to have your guards up all the time. And as a Black man in America, you have to have your guards up um, as you step out of the house, prayerfully as you step out of the house and not in the house, sometimes even in the house. So it was a feeling that was foreign to me that now I'm addicted to. So since the first time I've been to Ghana, I went to Ghana, which is around a year and a half ago too. I've been 5 times ever since.
So
So
just a year and a half of going to Ghana, you're now working with the government.
working with the
You've been
government,
in school.
with the tribes, with our tribes, of the government, and all other members that are helping for the progression of Ghana and the unification of our people, diasporans around the world.
And so what do you say to Black Americans who haven't been to the continent and or those who have just started to go? What would you like to see more folks, you know, understand about time on the continent and being part of life on the continent?
Well, it's a couple things that I would like for us to understand. One, that is where we are, our origins, and especially African Americans. We have this. A lot of us have this slavery and post as our history. Slavery and post-slavery, Reconstruction era, civil rights era, on up, and that's our history, and that's what kind of defines our past, which is not true at all. But that is what we have been conditioned to learn and accept. A lot of us, and I'm here. I've always been on a road to seek out further knowledge and history, because when you know your history, it prepares you for the present, and it helps influence your future. So I had always been seeking it out, but I know that we need, since there is a new time, there is an information age, there is the internet, there is time for us to get to know certain things, but for us to go over there and reconnect with Ghanaians, reconnect with Africans from all countries and on the continent, and that's going to help influence our history, show that we are from a culture that is extremely rich, and in technology, religion, faith, every advancements in society, civil and civic. So that's what I would like for us to be influenced by, because again, that cap that they have on our history as American American is nothing but a short, I mean, small moment in time. If you look at it as a historian and you take a step back, that transatlantic slave trade and that chattel slavery was horrible, horrific, but it was a small amount of our time in the grand scheme of things. And our illustrious history and future was laying ahead for us, and what has happened. It has been systematically excluded and tried to get us to ignore it or don't know about it or set roadblocks in even trying to find our history. But our history is in Ghana. You will learn about the Ashanti tribes, the Gas, the Fantis, and you understand the migration and the movement patterns of tribes and people, and the technology advances. Again, like West Africa was West Africa. It wasn't cut up until it was the German conference or
The
Berlin
Conference, yeah.
Conference, which was actually named the African Conference. That's when all the European nations came together and said, "Hey, we got to stop fighting for all these resources that are in Africa because they're so abundant, and we're going to sit and cut up Africa, and then move accordingly." So that's why the Dutch is that's why in Ghana there's English, but all the surrounding countries or speak French, like Togo, and then Nigeria has this, but that was all just West Africa. The Congo with the Belgians, they cut that all up at that conference, and so just West Africa was just West Africa. We didn't have Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Benin. That was just one country. And that was all of us. And there was tribes, and the Ashantis, the Gazafantis, all these either the Igbos. I'm not Igbo.
Empires, yes, a lot of different empires. Yeah.
Empires. You understand? We don't know that, and we
Mhm.
just need to know that to connect and to show the brilliance and the excellence of us.
So what do you think is the key to our connection? Because I mean, I love what you and Nia are doing in Ghana in terms of starting programs for the youth, working with the government. There's been a long history. We don't get taught that in the public school here, but there's a long history of Black cooperation across the ocean.
Yeah.
And so, when folks go to the continent to give back, to get involved, and folks come here, there can be tensions there. Obviously there's a lot of different tensions based on a lack of historical understanding. I'm curious what you believe is the key to helping us connect in a more permanent way to stay unified. And we're going to get into your storytelling and the work, but I want to know, like, what do you think is the key? What do you think is most important for Black folks west of the ocean and east of the Atlantic Ocean to connect authentically and sustainably?
Well, I believe that one thing to help us connect authentically and make it a standard is what I would like to know, would like to look forward to, is that knowledge. Knowledge is power. Again, like what we're speaking about is like knowing our history. I have several conversations, candid and very, in detailed conversations with our Ghanaian brothers and sisters. And really, when you're in Ghana, you hear the influence from all over the continent, because you have South Africans, Zimbabweans, all these folks that we talk to, that we meet up in Ghana. Ghana's kind of being like a hub almost, on how we how to communicate and things like that. So I believe that if we talk more and we have more interactions, more engagements with each other, we'll learn that we're a lot more similar than we are different. And we have like-minded goals in hand, because the connection, we all want to connect, we all want to know what the other persons know. And our good people in Ghana and on the continent have our history, and we let's just speak about African Americans, we have a lot more aggressiveness when it comes to business acumen and getting things done. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be that needs to be improved in Ghana in particular, and that's going to help advance us as whole, as a people, as a continent. And we just need to share and trade information. Once you share and trade information and form that bridge, that highway of connectivity between us, we will learn that we have a lot more in common than we are different. And then also we have a natural inclination towards each other and in communication. And it's a shorthand that is there, but we just don't know it yet. But once you touch down again, Kwame Nkrumah, one of the reasons why Ghana has its independence the way that it has, because Kwame Nkrumah came over and studied at a HBCU, and he started Garveyism. He started all making nationalism for the Ghanaians, and creating an infrastructure that's going to help propel for the future and connect with other African countries on the continent. So that all came from an amalgamation of African American ideologies and plans, and again, that bridge took that back, and the advancements of Ghana has been from that point forward, from Kwame Nkrumah, again influenced by what we were doing in the States. So that right there is a prime example of how far we can go with communication and relationship building on both sides of the world.
Of the ocean. Absolutely. That I really, want our people to understand the long legacy of collaboration. W.E.B. Du Bois going to Africa as early as the late 1800s. African presidents and heads of state studying at HBCUs in the States is so important. And so you're understanding this really in-depth appreciation for the marriage of Black power across the ocean obviously informs your work as a storyteller and as a movement builder, and as an impact, focused creator. Can you speak a bit to how this understanding informs your work? You talk about your grandmother and how she raised you and what you saw as a child. Speak to this, this understanding and how it comes across in your stories, or how it influences the stories that you prefer to tell.
Well, speaking about my grandmother, she did the best thing that I think you can have a child is formulate his mind or her mind to have critical thinking and understanding, and being open to receive new information. Because a lot of times when you're brought up and you're raised a certain way, you have a cap on what you think and what you believe and how you think things should be in the world. Is pretty much capped, and as most of the time it's influenced by your environment, your circumstances, and things like that. My grandmother allowed me to grow and help position a fertile mind to have critical thinking, and also explore and evolve with new information. So that was something that I allowed that I propagated throughout everything too. When it's time for us to connect and learn and grow from each other, I was in a place already of seeking and trying to get to that place, and trying to be where we are working towards. So collaborative efforts with our people, and she also instilled a sense of pride, Black pride,
Mm.
Black love, and when if you're going with love first, and you see the horrific um, atrocities that's been happening all around the world, especially to us as our people, and things Congo, Rwanda, all these things that South Africa, all these things that have been put in place as chess pieces to manipulate and use African, no, no, use Africans, yeah, to pit against each other. I understand and overstand how that happened from this point, from those points, and now understanding it, from your history, you can learn how to correct it or try to move and navigate within those parameters, or think like we do. We like to say at Impact, as if there is no box,
As
so
if there is no box. Is that what you said?
there's no box. Yes, exactly. So
Mm.
we use it when using those tactics and efforts to try to work at, not try, work at building these bridges, work at putting us in a situation that's going to allow a fruitful relationships to move forward. Because Africa definitely, I'm just speaking about Ghana. That's where I spend most of my time at. Is in a great space when it comes to our history and exchanging information and wanting to and building those bridges. But we do have to advance forward. We do need to take our talents on both sides of the world and use them for the advancement of our people, because that's where our land is. You understand? You as people, our Irish Americans, our Italian Americans, our Chinese Americans, they're all associated with a mass of land where your people were from. So if you're doing it, so if America's treating our Chinese brothers and sisters or Japanese brothers and sisters a little too bad, or something that's coming to atrocity on a magnitude or a scale that the Chinese or the Japanese government has to take it. Hey, what y'all doing to our people now? Come on now, what's happening?
Mm.
They have a backup, a landmass, a group of a body that represents them when they're out. That's where I would like for us to navigate towards. And especially African Americans in particular, because we are a tribe that is, individual and unique in its nature, which I would like for us to be more of a collective, but bringing in and the talents and the things that we have learned, because we have learned an ideology and a way to getting things done over here in the West that I think that will have benefit us in other elements. And let's just try to take our talents and cross pollinate those advantages. I hope that answered your question. Um, you know, did you hear
Yeah.
me?
You hear me? Yeah, I had to change cameras because the other computer is giving some issues. But
Uh,
yeah, that answers my question. And I want to just you mentioned your grandmother and and how she instilled a sense of Black pride and Black love in you. I want to know more about how she did that and what it was about your environment growing up that instilled in you such a strong sense of Black pride and Black love.
Well, my environment growing up was on the north side of St. Louis, and that's just give a brief little context of it. St. Louis has been in the top 5 worst cities in America since 1990. It's currently there now, and I think it's number 2 in violence, crimes, and just overall just bad city. It's the only city in America that cracked the top 15 worst cities in the world. So yeah, that's just what it is. And with that, I'm from the north side of St. Louis, which was one of the more heavily aggressive, violent areas. So within all that I just said, my grandmother was a community organizer. She was a driving force in the community, and she was one of those houses. She had one of those houses. She already had 10 kids, so she had one of those houses that everybody came through, that knew you can get a meal, knew you can get some knowledge. And Miss Jones will be able to help you if you go down to the workhouse, which is the minimum security prison, or a medium security prison, or in any aspects. So seeing my grandmother manipulate the system for the benefit of her people and her community, and then again, she spoke so well. She was very eloquent and very smart. So that allowed her to be in both worlds and use those resources uh, that she had possessed, or in her intellect, to manipulate outsiders for the advancement of her people. So taking that same formula and ideology, and what I was able to watch firsthand, she was a genius on that phone. She was a genius master communicator. Because she can go from a boardroom. She worked at Lutheran Ministry, so she can go to a boardroom of nuns and priests who pretty much control these resources, and then go straight, and then also be right in the hood, in the jail system, in the prison system, working with recidivization and incarcerated brothers and sisters, and then going from there, going to bingo. She was able to communicate. She was able to communicate in all aspects and use that to help the community. And that's what I do with my work. That's how I formulated my ideology and my tactics, by using the talents that have got my God-given talents, and my work ethic, and what I love is our people, to create these stories and these narratives, documentary style or narrative style, to address issues that have been plaguing our community, and good, bad, or indifferent, because we need to see an array of things, not just one side. I try to be in especially my documentary storytelling. I try to be the best science teacher, best history teacher you can be, with a little sugar added, with meaning entertainment. And in my narrative form, I try not to be on the nose, but I try to bring in things in a subtle way that make you think about what's happening, and challenges your perspective of the world in front of you and behind you.
And you do
Hopefully.
so powerfully. Yes. So I want to speak to your early days as a storyteller, and what it was that you were in this, kind of incubator of this extended community, this extended family. There's a lot of love, a lot of support, and somehow I remember you telling me that you were exposed to certain stories that you really fell in love with, and that made you say you wanted to be in entertainment. You wanted to tell stories. Talk about that early nexus of falling in love with storytelling and deciding that this is what I want to do.
Well, for me, falling in love with storytelling was escapism for me. I'm a cinephile, and as again, like I just described to you, the pitfalls of growing up in St. Louis, Missouri. There were a lot of negative stimuli, and a lot of things going on for me as a child, coming up. Stories, movies were my outlet. I was able to be out. I was able to be in prehistoric times, and then I was able to be in the future, in outer space. I was able to be in animation world, and I was able to be in the most gruesome of gruesome horror films. So those things stimulated and tantalized my mind to get to where I wanted to be, because I knew that the power of stories, like if you look at the Cosby Show, look at what that show did for HBCUs. You understand? So you can see that the storytelling can influence people, because really at the core of storytelling, at the core of it, it's a propaganda machine. It's
I just have to say one thing because first of all, shout out to Missouri because I grew up in Como and we looked, St. Louis for us was like the North Star. It was like that's where you could go to have some fun, go to Six Flags, go to African parties or whatever. And as you're talking about storytelling HBCUs, my 14-year-old daughter decided that she wants to attend an HBCU because she saw a different world. So
mhm.
that impact continues. But please continue.
Yeah, you see that? No, that's exactly to the point. It's still continued. And again, one thing about movies, they're forever. You know, good, bad, or indifferent, they are forever. For example, Birth of a Nation is forever. That
Mhm.
story has been influencing racists and bigots since its inception. And look how good of a propaganda tool that was. How it jumped. I was just watching something and talking about after Birth of a Nation, it jumped the Klan's registration to like hundreds of thousands of people, where it was a small, what a Klan was. I was not out of. I thought it was started in Indiana, but someone just told me that it was like it was started somewhere else. But I really thought it was Indiana. Indiana was the birthplace of the Klan. So again, so I have to, with my storytelling and influences where I use that to combat, things that have been just been plaguing our communities. Because it's funny, when I used to travel around the world as a younger man, without as many grays, uh the I used to have to combat so many negative stereotypes that the world knew of African American men, because all they knew was these ultra violent, hypersexual, super masculine minions, is what our brother Elder Cleaver called what the syndrome in which they put on us. I had to combat that, especially being a darker hue man as well.
Mhm.
It was a lot of preconceived notions put on me before I even had a conversation with someone in the Netherlands, or someone in Germany, or someone where I'm at, and they're like, oh, you can see the light, what I'm saying? You can see when it really hits them, like, oh, it's not what I
You don't fit the stereotype.
thought. You're not in this box. Let's talk then.
Mhm.
And it's good. I don't because I don't take offense to it, because it's all you know. It's like me being offended at a child's cussing or something. You're programmed from that. You learn that from somewhere else. So I
Mhm.
try to inform and try to have a conversation with the ones that I feel that are genuine. And then they're assholes everywhere. But and bigots and racists. But I think the majority of the world is just ignorant to certain things. Ignorant, because I was ignorant. Hey, I'm in Ireland. I'm ignorant to Gaelic. you know, I don't know
Mhm.
what's going on. I know that language comes from somewhere. There's an origin. There's a history behind people speaking Gaelic, and I need to know. And that's what I want to know. So I'm pretty sure that on the other side, they're ignorant to some of our African American customs.
Mhm.
They're ignorant to certain things. So we try to communicate, and I do that. And the strongest form of communication that I feel they can reach the masses is filmmaking and storytelling. So that'll help influence um, that'll help influence um, the world. Again, like a propaganda, it is going to help change and cultivate the mentality of people. Look at it. Look, and here's an example. Look, African American culture is one of the biggest exports America has. So we just need to frame that narrative the best way we can.
Absolutely. So once you had that understanding that film and storytelling was what you wanted to do, how did you start building your skill set? You experienced the escapism as a child. You got to travel to different worlds through the stories that you engaged, and then you decided this is what you wanted to do. How did you start to make the kind of choices that would help you to build the skill set that would make you a successful filmmaker and storyteller?
Well, you know what? It came through my passion first of acting. So I when I moved to New York City, I dove into the theater scene head first, because when I was in St. Louis and I was, who were the people that I love, who are the greats that I would love to emulate or look or head towards, and I saw and Denzel Washington, Spike Lee as a storyteller, Al Pacino. These were people that, and they all had Lawrence Fishburne. They all had a base in theater, and I knew that
Mhm.
New York was the capital of theater of the world, New York and London. So I went to New York and I dove headfirst into the arts. That's what I wanted to. I wanted to really cultivate me and raise my artistic IQ to the highest point it can be, and my work ethic. That if you make it there, you can make it anywhere. That's how
Mhm.
ruling, and you have to formulate and cultivate your mind to be about that hustle. And so I knew that New York was going to help me provide that. So I went there and dove into that head first. So learning while I'm in front of the camera, while I'm on stages performing and doing national and regional theater, I also was doing off Broadway. I also was working as a grip when I was not, and being a grip and the AC and things like that. That allowed me to learn the technical aspects of storytelling and learn every position. I went from the PA to the head PA to the grip to the AC to the G&E to the associate producing. I did everything I can in my craft. I wanted to learn unilaterally of every piece and every element I can. So when it came to me telling telling stories as a part of being part of a story, I I I felt that I was in a better position than some of the people that went to film school because
Wow.
I had the hands-on experience. And then you do have a difference. There is a benefit being in a different aspect, being in front of the camera or in front of the eyes when you're on stage or you're performing on a movie or a television show. Because and when it's time for you to translate that being behind the camera and trying to communicate with other actors, you have a shorthand already there that you and that other person has a way of communicating because you're both performers and you know what it takes and you know what you need to help get that going. Being a director is also a psychological game. You have to be able to basically produce. I don't want to say con game, but it's a confidence game. You have to instill your confidence into someone else. So that's the definition of con game. So you have to put these, yeah, and for them to do the best that they can do in their situation. So that helped me being knowing both sides of the fence in every aspect. So now the question is, do you use your powers for good or evil? That's what it comes down to. And I chose to use mine hopefully for good.
So that that's real in terms of your once you started your career in New York, but even before you got to New York, as a youth in St. Louis, in an environment that was, very challenging, how did you take those steps to even get ready to be like, I'm gonna go to New York? What did you for somebody who's a teenager right now,
Okay,
they want to get
I
into entertainment?
see what you're saying. So, when I was in St. Louis, I don't talk much. I know it might be contrary to us having this conversation today, but I'm not a talker when it comes to my actions. I'm a more of an action person. So I didn't let anyone really know what I was doing because as a kid, like I said, I was a cinephile. So I watched every movie and I had these internal conversations of where I want to go and how I want to do it. I knew St. Louis was not it though. I knew because one of my goals was to have stories, to be able to experience things as all travel all around the world. I knew that as a kid that I really wanted to do that. It was always something in me to make me want to get out and get out, jump off the porch. I'm a jump off the porch type of guy. I'm not a house cat. I'm an alley cat. I'm outside. And I know I always wanted to experience that, but I had to keep it to myself because I really didn't know how to cultivate and communicate my thoughts on it. And also, there is a chance that when you're communicating and you're telling so much of your plans that there's the detractors or people who are not doesn't have your best interest at heart.
Mhm.
So I kept it to myself, but I was putting plans in place. Like I would fly to New York, not having no money. Luckily, shout out to my uncle Anthony, my great uncle Anthony, who worked at TWA.
Mm.
And when I was in high school, TWA was still around. And I was working that buddy pass system way before people knew about it. And that allowed me to go to New York. And me going to New York as much as I did, it helped cultivate me. I saw that there's more than St. Louis. I saw that there's a whole much. Let me tell you how bad it was. Let me tell you how country I was when I was going to New York. I remember one time I'm on the I think it was the 2 train or something like that, coming from Harlem going downtown, and I see, from my perception, white people saying nigga. I was tripping out. I was like, man, y'all gonna, everybody's just sitting, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, I didn't know they were Puerto Ricans. I didn't know what Puerto Ricans really represented, because I had never seen a Puerto Rican. I'm from Missouri. We were black and white. That is it. Segregated. St. Louis. You look how segregated St. Louis is. The Dred Scott case happened in St. Louis. If you don't know about the Dred Scott case, that was one of the tipping points for the Civil War, because the slave who went to the free state with his captors. In my opinion, I don't say mad. It's captors. And when he got there, he was like, "Yo, I'm free now." And his captors was like, "Nah, you ain't free. Bring your ass back home. What you talking about? My horse ain't free when I ride it to a free state and ride it back. You ain't number property." And it went all the way to the civil. It went to the Supreme Court, and he finally won his freedom and died the next year or 2 years. So, but that's how segregated, and I didn't know what Puerto Ricans was, or what this was. So that was an education that was really thrown on.
Wow. So you started visiting New York.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you were, stacking up your money and just preparing for that move.
Parents saving my money.
You have teachers? Did you have, were there people who influenced you, who were guiding you to figure it out?
No one. I do remember it, and that's why I'm always an open book and an outlet for anyone in that position, and a young people or anyone that's looking to find their way or make their own way. I try to provide as much communication as I can for them, and information, and whatever I can do to help. Because I remember I went to New York not knowing anyone. I didn't know one person when I moved. Well, that's not true. One of my trips, I was going back and forth. I met this guy named Eric at a McDonald's in Times Square. Me and my boy had just left this club, 2:00 in the morning. I met this cat named Eric. And this dude, let me tell you how God is. This dude allowed me, when I came back another time, he's like, "Hey man, we had stayed in communication a little bit. Email had just started, type of stuff." And he's like, "Hey man, if you want to come back and sleep on my couch, bro, you can, and you're trying to find it, you can." And I was able to sleep on that brother's couch. Not knowing him, for about a week and a half before I got my apartment. My was able to move into my apartment, and before that, that brother went and looked at a couple of apartments for me when I was in St. Louis, and not knowing. And an apartment, my first apartment in Harlem, I got sight unseen because of him, and his recommendation was like, "Hey man, so this is what it is, bro." And I was like, and my time was coming. So I benefited from New York, and from the generosity of our diaspora. And this brother was a Jamaican, was a Jamaican-born New Yorker, moved to New York when he was like 2 or something like that. No, he moved to New York when he was like, that was 9 or something like that. So basically, the diaspora from Jamaica that lived in New York assisted a Midwest African American to open up his mind living in New York. So you got to put that in context and know what happened, and so that's why I'm always generous with my time and information whenever I can, to pass on this information, to speak to you and speak to anyone, not even just young folks.
Now you've overcome a lot. We're going to come into the New York part of the story, but I want to dive a little bit into some of the things you overcame in order to even get to the theater, to get to be an actor, to get to be a filmmaker. You were raised by your grandmother because your parents were affected by the crack epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some, there was an incident of violence that you survived as well. That helped.
What are you talking about?
You told me you got shot.
I know.
You told me, but if you're going, switch it up.
No. Yes, yeah. I was a casualty of the drug war. You know, both of my parents were
You were a survivor
addicts.
of the drug war.
Say?
So you were a survivor of the drug war.
Yeah, survival. Yeah, you're right. Both of my parents were fell short to the drug epidemic of the '80s, the crack epidemic of the '80s. So I was again primarily raised by my grandparents, and then like I said, living in St. Louis, I got shot in the head like I was around 15, 16, or something like that. And that was a very traumatic, moment. I remember thinking when I was riding in that ambulance that I was going to be another statistic
Mm.
in which they were putting out about young black men. And by the grace of God, I survived that element and things like that. And also, and going through the elements of, just dealing with both of my parents addicted to narcotics. You have to go in and out of foster homes. You got to go in and out. I went through the whole gambit. Like I'm from the mud, where they want to say that they say it now, from mud up from the bottom of the social economical ring. Because again, homeless shelters, and several of those coming through Section 8 housing. The system going through the entire. No men can be at home if you're getting assistance from the government as a child. I remember all those things, and I remember how they affected our community. I remember how they affected me, and those were also motivators for me when I was moving forward. Like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it my way. But I don't want to speak so disparaging, because part of the benefit of going through so many traumatic things and dealing with so much stuff as an early life, it did suffer as part of my childhood, but it did prepare me for my adulthood, because I see that now when I especially back then, when my friends were dealing with things that were so extreme to them, that was so I had a level head. I knew that, hey, if I ain't got rent, if I can't pay my rent this month, I figured out. It ain't the worst thing that's in the world. It's not going to take me under. It's not. So many people I knew that moved to New York around the time that I moved went back to whatever town they were from, because they could not take or deal with the harsh realities or the extreme situations that New York provided. And for me, it was like, hey, this is par for course, man. You know what I'm saying? This is nothing, because I had been cultivated to think critically because of my surroundings, and dealing with so much adversity at a young age. It prepared me for whatever was coming, and whenever time I needed to, I was on whatever time I needed to be on to make it happen for myself, because I had a skill set from dealing with so much adversity as a youth.
What would you say to somebody who's in the thick of it right now? A lot of people are going through it. The world is on fire, right? Some of us are like scared a little above it. What would you say to a youth that's in the thick of it right now, who is, trying to find that hope, trying to find that thing to grasp onto, that to be able to take that next step, to be able to believe that something else could be out there for them?
Mm-hmm.
What would be your message for somebody in that position right now?
Oh, you will be all right.
You should be a therapist.
What you say?
I said you should be a therapist.
No, but yeah, it's the real, because you feel like this is the end of the world and this is it. You're gonna be all right. You are going to be okay. Just be focused. Do what you love, especially if you're moving on a love-based reality. Like me, I was living on a love-based reality. I love performing. I love theater. I knew that I was not going to be in an office. I knew that I was not going to be in a traditional office. I was not going to be part of the so-called normal world. I knew that. I even so much so that when I did have it, like I'm an engineer. Like I did engineer. I'm an engineer by trade. I knew that I was going to self-sabotage if I kept going the way that I was going, because I knew what I wanted to do. So I just moved stronger and stronger to what I actually wanted to do, and not what was expected from me and everything like that. So if you're going through these things, it is not the end of the world. You woke up, so you're going to be able, so you have a new start, and you can keep it moving. And there's a new opportunity to be great, and then make things happen, and have that mentality that you can, you especially as you're younger, you can fuck up, you can mess up, you could really mess up, and keep it moving and changing. And it's never too late. But I just want to say, when you're younger, you have much more opportunity to mess up. So mess up, try new things, express yourself. Um, don't follow. That's one of the biggest issues that I've recognized today, and it was prevalent back then as well. Don't be a follower, be a leader, or but also to be a good leader, you got to be a good soldier. So you have a strong work ethic. Your work ethic is going to determine a lot of things for you, because a lot of stuff that I didn't know how to do, but I had a great work ethic, and I was on time, and I focused on whatever the task in, and I learned from them. You can, especially in entertainment, you don't have to know everything, but you got to be somebody that they want to hang around 12 hours. That's what I had to learn. Here's a cheat code. I was work my ass off, learning all this, working, sweating. I was working to do the same position, but he wasn't working as much, but he kept on getting called back. That's why I was working so hard, so I can keep getting called back. But I learned that, everyone likes him on the set. That's how he's been able to do his thing and not work as much. Luckily, I didn't work so much because I learned a lot. But he was able to, and they learned that you might not know everything, but as long as you're personable and you can dip and you can maneuver and have a good atmosphere, good attitude for 12 hours and 13 hours. Because these are some long. You're with these people more than you're with your family. So they gotta be like. So these folks have to like you. They have to be comfortable with you. And that's that's something that I think that'll help people move forward, especially if you're in the entertainment industry. And behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, know your craft, know your effing craft. Like I said, I'm a cinephile. I watch everything. I'm in theater. I'm there. I'm doing theater and I'm watching theater. I'm reading scripts and I'm writing scripts. I'm watching movies and I'm making movies. Learn your craft as much as you possibly can.
Beautiful. So you spent all this time in New York. You started out with theater. You were acting. You started to get opportunities to be behind the scenes, to be on set, behind the camera, etc. Built up your skill set, and then you started to do TV. At what point did you decide to move to LA? Because I know you had a show on a stage show in New York that did very well, and then you were like, I'm gonna go to
Yep.
LA now. Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. For me, I had a benchmark for myself. I love, like I said, I'm a cinephile, movies and TV, and theater was as a passion, as a love. You can't buy it. It's be hard to buy a house in theater. So I did this one-man show where I played around 6 or 7 characters. And for me, that was my demarcation. That was letting me know that, okay, you've done this. You've checked that box in this theater world for now. And it's time to go seek out your other passions, which is film and TV. And I packed up a 1992 Toyota Corolla that had 200,000 miles on it. And me and my partner, we drove from New York to LA and did that. So that's what
you
is
the
that?
stage show that you did in New York. What was the name of the show that you did in theater?
Oh, my one man show. My one man show was called "Just Happy to Be Here." I got nominated for an Adelco. Adelco was the Theater of Excellence Award. I lost.
But you got video of that? Can we watch that anywhere? Can we
watch
it?
I have to find it. I do have it, but I have to find it. My cousin said she had it. So that's my but I do have a copy, an earlier copy of the show, I think that we recorded. But that play was very monumental to me, because not only was it a play my first play that I wrote, the one man show, and then it addressed, what happened. Just happy to be here is what happened if your birthday was September 11th. That's what happened if you received some beautiful information on September 11th. What happened if you, with all these aspects of showing, like, I'm just happy to be here with that was tied into that particular day of
wow.
So it was a great experience, and I loved that play. And it was taken out. We were picked up from where we originally did it. We were picked up by the New Eurekan Poet Theater, and it was taken down there, and we had a run there, and then was picked up again by the National Black Theater in Harlem. We went there and had a run there, and again, that's where we got a Theater of Excellence Award nomination. So, the Adelco. So we, doing that is what let me know, hey man, you can go there. It's time for you to go and seek out your other passions.
So you fill up the 92 Corolla, drove all the way across the country. And what was your first, kind of big success in LA where you knew like, okay, this is
First,
I'm really here.
you know what? It was stages. I say for me, the first one was and it was I had told myself no more theater. I'm not gonna do theater right now. I'm just focused on that. I get to LA and I'm like, man, I need an agent. So there's like, you got to go back to what you know. So they said you can do. I just doing theater. You can find people theater. Agents come to. So I was in rehearsal. So I did this audition, booked the play. I booked the lead of this play called P Files about peacocks, but it was a great. It was a really good play. But while I was started the rehearsals, I had got my agent just by hustling and doing all that. So I was like, well, I pulled myself out of the play because I got it because and it wasn't paying. It's a whole nother price structure of theater in LA. It was crazy. So I pulled out of that, and that's how I got my first agent by hustling and doing what I can do, and got that. And that was a break for me of going in there and auditioning and learning that it's a different style of television film performance. So you had to learn that, and then I got I think I got a spot on Tosh Point oh. Tosh Point oh. Tosh Point oh was like a prank show, but also they had like reenactments and all type of things. And I booked that, and I just got I just got, and this is how long ago this was. I just got like a $40 residual check from that show.
Wow.
A couple days ago. That's how long.
Wow.
That's how long. And then from that, I kept building up my credits. But again, theater has never failed me. I booked another play, which I wasn't looking for. But a guy saw me in something. He was like, "Hey man, you want to come in?" And it was a play called 12 by 9. And just so happened that play toured around the United States as well. 3-person play, and needed someone that can handle dialogue and be a 3-person play that can be on stage the entire time. And I was able to, book that and toured around, and that really solidified myself in the Los Angeles area as a performer, because people really came to see that play. Won a couple of NAACP awards and things like that. So it was a hot play, and from there I got recognized. Okay, from there. A director who came to see the play saw me in that play, and I cast me in a TV show. It was called Front Seat Chronicles. It was another 2-person thing with me and his brother named Marquise Harris, who's blown up now as well. Him and I did it, and then from that, he remembered me, and I did some other. I was doing anything, but he's the director that first called me to audition, because he was called. His name's Carl Seaton, to audition for a role on Snowfall. And I auditioned for a role in Snowfall and got it, and was on it for 3 seasons. Those are the trajectory. That's what hard work. It may not be one-on-one payoff like you doing this and you expect this, but if you put that energy out there, it's going to come back to you.
So you did Snowfall, you did The Purge, you ended up in Louisiana.
Born Again Virgin. That was I knew it was something. I knew something was missing in between that. Born Again. I did Born Again Virgin. That was pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. In all of these experiences, you got to bring your journey. You got to kind of channel that experience that you had coming from St. Louis, from New York, being in theater in LA, being able to kind of bring your own voice to the characters, and then but still being an activist. So were you kind of doing some sort of activism alongside the acting, or was that something that came back again when you were paired up with Nia for Impact?
No, that's been going on. Like, my activism was going on the entire time. I was telling you, I did an abridged version in New York. So I was doing, but I had working with majority of my career. I've worked for and worked with all Black companies, and have been the advocate for. So within that, we have a program called Each One Teach One, in which we teach young people how to create their own short films centered around social and civic issues that's been plaguing their community. So I had been doing that. I had also had, and that is the program that has been morphed in between with me and I. We named that Cyber Justice.
Okay.
So it's cyber justice is an amalgamation of a program that Neil was doing and I was doing, and we put that together. So and also I was direct. I had been direct. I had been I worked for a super PAC for Obama, and I was on the bus and I made a documentary about the situation on the bus and as an advocacy for voting rights and things like for voting rights too, and also an engagement tool about African Americans. So that was one documentary. Then also I did a documentary called Target St. Louis Volume One. That was about post World War II during the Cold War era. The military conducted secret chemical testing on the most vulnerable population of St. Louis, Missouri, for Black people. So and within that, I was also working within the schools and engaging, teaching theater, and also in teaching social and civic justice when it comes to filmmaking, storytelling, and engagement. And also, I was working with an organization called Urban Dove that was targeted toward mentoring at-risk youth and the development of social skills and critical thinking. I had about 50 young people, 60 young people in my site that we worked with and engaged with. And that was in New York and some that part was in New York, but the rest of it was nationally. And then so I constantly working. I was always and will always be engaged in civil and social justice and rights for our people and for people of any marginalized community. So those activities were already happening, and then Nia and I got together and started building on different projects. Free to Be Free, that's our guy created as a documentary I directed about about the in efforts to help promote and pass the Crown Act nationwide, and we helped get it passed Louisiana, the first in the Deep South that Nia and I made happen. And then there are other programs like the Tangling the South. We have a 5-part docu-series that highlights the overlooked, undervalued, and often ignored contributions of women to the civil rights movement, past, present, and future. So those engagements and I directed it as well. So those stories were always happening. I did about that narrative short that they focused on mental health community and stigmas of mental health, and it poses the question: what happens when love is only good for you? And Daddy's Big Girl, another narrative that I directed that actually won the Gentleman Jack Daniels Filmmaker of the Year award, and they came with a good $10,000 prize. Who don't love that? So and then several other things that I
Love
want to.
and-
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
So,
So, mhm.
so as you came together with Nia
Wait a minute, isn't it? Am I? Look at this. Show this off.
I can't see. Oh, it says black.
Black, 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 like I never left.
Oh, left. That's beautiful. It's beautiful. Aesthetic is striking. So you did a lot. Nia did a lot. You did a lot on your own. Just had tremendous impact, teaching folks how to use the camera as a weapon, almost, right? Use that storytelling skill as a tool for restructuring culture, restructuring society, empowering Black people.
Mhm,
Now you guys came together and joined forces and built Detangled and started to do campaigns and projects that really influence civic engagement,
mhm,
which is what I find so thrilling about the work that you all do. So the work that you do, as a storyteller, and then the work Nia does in terms of law, coming together and being able to use storytelling to shift policy is absolutely game changing. And not to say that nobody's ever done that before, but from what I understand in terms of how you made the Crown Act, a reality in collaboration with a number of different organizations, but how you guys drove that, as well as, doubling voter turnout in Louisiana by truly engaging people around what they needed personally and even making them feel beautiful and powerful by putting them on camera. Talk a bit about those projects and where your heart was, what you really hoped for, and how you kind of connected with people to drive these these stories forward in such a way that they can have such a tremendous change and tremendous impact.
Thank you, first off. When it comes to, like, let's say, Free to Be Free, that's a story. That's something that's been close to my heart for decades, really. When it comes to hair and how your hair, it defines you and your personality, and how you accept it, you're accepted or not accepted in certain societies or in certain social norms, and it's all based on the standard of beauty that it's been cultivated in through a European lens. So that is the basis of standards of beauty, and that's the basis of hair, which is, I felt, grossly disrespectful to anyone else that's not European, which is changed. You have to change who you are to fit into society, which is society is that's crazy. And it always has been crazy to me. And pairing with Nia, who had been working advocacy on the policy side of this situation, with we put with our powers combined, we are Captain Planet. And the thing about especially documentary storytelling, if you pick the right subject, the people that are participating really want to get their story out. They want to tell. They really, because they have been discriminated against. They have been disrespected on some level that they feel that a change need to come. So when I were sitting back and we were putting these interviews together and having these conversations, I knew that the way that we wanted to tell this story had to be something that was going to influence other people and tug on the heartstrings. So I created this narrative and able to impact these people with the skill set and the talents that I know that you need to captivate someone's attention around a subject. That's one. I mean, I guess that's a talent of mine that allows me to see a way of delivering the message without banging someone over the head, with a nuance and an elegance that allows you to be disarmed and receive the information. So we take, let's say, Free to Be Free to legislators, and again, what I just said, they allowed it to disarmed and allowed them to receive the experiences that these women are coming, and I put it into such a narrative form in which that you can't. It's kind of undeniable that that these humans are going through an experience that they should not they shouldn't be, and here is the impact of what your legislation is causing. So when we put out, like I like to say, to coin this frame, I try to put a heartbeat to a piece of paper, and that allows you to have an emotional connection to a subject that you're talking about, a policy, and then be able to go from your heart, and as opposed to your brain.
Is there a science to that for you in terms of connecting with people, in terms of helping folks to really centering, the needs of the people whose stories you're telling, really kind of connecting at the heart around these major issues?
You know what I got to say? That's a talent. I'm just going out to as a talent, as a God-given talent, and I can break down. I can tell someone step by step how I do a thing, but you still won't have that same sauce. I just I have I.
That's that $1 million secret sauce. You don't
You
give
said
it away.
what?
I said that's that $1 million secret
Yeah,
sauce. You don't need to give it away.
that's a secret sauce. I've tried to explain it, but I have to come to the realization, like, it's just me. It's a cultivation of my experiences, and my ideologies and thoughts on how cinematic storytelling and relationships and policy, and it's taken decades for me to cultivate who I am. How they say you don't pay someone for them able to do a job in 10 minutes. You pay them for the experience to be able to get that job done correctly in 10 minutes. So that experience in which I've been through and learned, and by going to museums around the world, that I love going to, or watching all these movies and learning cinematic storytelling and procedure and process, and alternative ways of thinking of certain things, and able, as all comes together from what I've done and learned and experiences to be able to tell that story.
So what does the future look like? So you guys have, you've done so much tremendous work in Louisiana. You are doing tremendous work in Ghana. What does the next year, 2 years look like for you? You have Target St. Louis that, is doing the festival circuit.
Target St. Louis Volume 1. You gotta say the whole name like a pimp
Sorry,
named Slick.
yeah. St. Louis Volume 1 that's doing the festival circuit. You have
uh,
a B that's a film that you're working on. What
yes.
what is the next like 12 to 18 months look like for you and
For
I?
18 months, we're going to be focusing, Nia and I, we're going to focus on other civic and social engagement projects that we're doing. We're coming to Essence and we're doing a few other things. When it comes to storytelling, the narrative element, we are putting together we are putting together a couple of more documentaries that I feel that we need to address. One about police brutality and police engagement, and then also other stories. And I'm going to be focusing more like on narrative element of things now as well. So Victory High, aka the V, in which we talked about, and Victory High and a few other projects, and then which Cornbread. I don't know if you remember Cornbread Earl and Me.
I remember it.
It came out in '76. It was Lawrence Fishburne's first movie. It was about, again, police brutality. I was hired to write the remake to Cornbread Earl and Me. So that should be that's on from my understanding is on the slate for uh, first quarter of next year to be hidden. And but I'm not directing that one. That's something I just wrote. But there's a lot of projects that we're going to move forward with. But again, narratively, there was a couple features that we have in the process and will be happening this year as well.
So end game for you, 100 years from now. I always like to talk about what Black liberation means to us, right? You're already living Black liberation. You're already, instituting Black liberation through the work that you do. What is the end game? What do you hope that will be the result in your lifetime or beyond your lifetime for the people that you serve and for the world that you are, seeking to create?
That literally, if not a hyperlink, but a bridge between the diasporans, and particularly African Americans, to Ghana or in Africa. And again, first off, the future is Africa. The past was Africa. The future is Africa. Because if you look at it, all the natural resources in which, like, we don't even carry money anymore. Like, I don't know how, when I keep cash on me just for incidentals, but no one keeps money on them like they used to. That's done. There's a lot of different currencies that's now digital currencies or fiat money. All that has happened. All these things are not backed by as much of the resources that's in Africa. Africa is the future, and let me let you know how I know. China sees it. Other countries they know it, but they see it and are investing even more and manipulating even more as well. If you really want to know the whole aspect.
Colonization.
But again, it's America is being excluded now from that, and there's alliances being forged together with other countries in the diaspora. So I would like for us African Americans to be able to have a stronger hold in continent, particularly in Ghana as well, and help shape and influence policies alongside of our Ghanaian brothers and sisters. What I love about especially Ghana, is that when you're there, they say, don't move as if you're a visitor. Move as if you're at home already and you need to make some changes. They let it be known that this is your home. A good percentage of us actually really, this is our home. We come out of those Cape Coast and Elminas slave ports that they exported, African captures into to and then I hate saying slaves too, carpenters, saying, iron workers, philosophers. Exported them to stole them and put them into American system and came over to America, and we had to thrive from there. And I give a big shout out to our African American people, because a lot of us go through a lot of things, but no one went through what we went through, and look where we at now. And look what we've maybe contribute, because America is our country as well.
Mm,
It's been paid for in blood. So
mm,
I'm not going to leave and totally abandon a place that my ancestors have dedicated and built up to what it is now, and to just just bounce out of here for no. We need to take these resources and put them and cross pollinate them, and that's going to be the advancement of our people. It's going to help with the advancement of our people. So hopefully that answers your
I
question.
want to say chop knuckle. I don't know if they do that in Ghana, but that's a Nigerian thing that we do. Thank
Uh,
you so much, Damien. I could literally sit and listen to you for hours. This has been, I love how we came full circle, right back to Ghana, right back to the continent.
yeah,
Rich and so energizing. I just wish you just continue to soar higher on this trajectory, and continue to do amazing work for our people. I'm looking forward to seeing Target St. Louis in theaters, Volume 1 in theaters, Volume 2, 3, and 4. I'm looking
mhm.
forward to the lawsuit that eventually got to come through one way or the other. There has to be some kind of justice
Yes, yes,
somehow. I know that the film talked about no spoilers, but
exactly.
but
Uh-huh.
I look forward to some kind of real justice being served
Mm.
in that case, and more people learning about it. Thank you all for watching. It's been such a pleasure, such an honor. If you enjoyed this, share it with somebody who needs to hear this story. Share it with somebody who wants to become a filmmaker, storyteller. If you want more Black Genius, go to norpress.org. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, all the things. Go to portalx.space to join the community for the social technology of the future. We just appreciate our community. We appreciate all the love, and we will see you very soon. Peace.
Peace.